What is up, Pats Nation? It is Patriots Global back here with another video, and we're going to be talking about a guy we don't really talk about all that much on this channel, and that is Danny Etling, the guy that the Patriots drafted back in 2018 in the 7th round with pick number 219. Now, ever since he's been drafted, there has been so much speculation on him, like, what is his purpose? Why did the Patriots draft him? A lot of people came in thinking that this is the future. Danny Etling is the future of the Patriots. Give him some, a couple years behind Brady. Give him some time in the system. Bill Belichick will work his magic. This guy is going to be a top 5 quarterback in a couple of years. I never believed that. And look, I already know that there's going to be people in the comments that totally do not agree with me. There's going to be guys that will be way too over-optimistic about him and just rely on the casual phrase, Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick. He'll somehow work his magic and do this. But in the end, you guys come to me for logical news and logical reasons, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing today with Danny Etling. So really, why did Bill Belichick draft Danny Etling? Well, when you're in the 7th round, at that point, there is not much you can lose. To me, rounds 1, 2, maybe 3 are more of the guys that you know are going to come in and make an impact. Guys you know have this talent and you want to be starting on your team. Once you get more to the 5th, not even necessarily the 5th, more so like the 6th and 7th round, those are when you start taking your chances. Those aren't guys that you know are going to come into your team, be starters, or even have necessarily an ideal that they're going to make an impact on your team. You just see something that you like in this player that you think you could possibly develop, so you pick him, and I think that's exactly what Bill Belichick did. He got to the 7th round. Danny Etling was there. He saw some qualities that he liked in him. Most importantly, the biggest thing that Bill Belichick liked about Danny Etling is that Danny Etling was very good at taking care of the ball in college. A very low interception rate, just made good decisions, was not a physical quarterback by any means, didn't have the best arm, best accuracy, or anything like that, but he was smart, hardworking, and again, he had a low interception rate, which is something Bill Belichick likes. You could even see it with a guy like Tom Brady. You then go into training camp, and Danny Etling wasn't anything special. It wasn't like he was making plays and people were like, we are very impressed with Danny Etling or anything like that. He was an average quarterback. You then get to the preseason games, and really Brian Hoyer is getting the bulk of the playing time now. Danny Etling did get some playing time, especially when it came to the last game versus the New York Giants, which I'm going to get into in a second. I'm really going to analyze that in just a moment. But the 3 other games, it was mostly Brian Hoyer, and I think that said a lot. It wasn't really because the Patriots were scared about losing Danny Etling. I think it was more that they wanted to get Brian Hoyer ready for the season because they knew that's the guy who's going to be the backup. They knew way before I think any of us did that Danny Etling was not going to be a serviceable backup to the team, and they saw that, so they wanted to get Brian Hoyer ready. But then you get to the Giants game, the final game of the preseason, and Danny Etling gets to play the entire game. So for anybody that really was like, I want to see Danny Etling play, they need to give Danny Etling a chance. I want to see what this kid has got. This was the game for you. So Danny Etling passing was 18 for 32, 157 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Now, rushing-wise, Danny Etling rushed 7 times for 113 yards, 1 touchdown, with a long run of 86 yards. Now, of course, we all know that run. That was just beyond crazy, where he fooled the entire Giants defense somehow. But that was really the only bright side of Danny Etling. Completing 18 passes out of the 32 attempts that you had is just not okay, and only putting up 157 yards for the 4 quarters in the game that you played is not okay. You threw more interceptions than you did touchdowns. And to me, that was the biggest worry to me, because the best thing about Danny Etling was how smart he was, how he made good decisions, how he was careful with the ball. And in that game, we did not see any of that. We saw him overthrowing passes, underthrowing passes, not being able to connect with wide open wide receivers. He made some pretty bad decisions and again ended up throwing 2 interceptions, so he wasn't even careful with the ball. Etling was actually a lot better using his legs, and I will say that I was surprised that he was as good as he was with his legs. Now, a lot of people are going to say how wrong I am because he had that one lucky run for 86 yards. I will say that was great. He showed off some pretty good speed, but at the same time, that's not what it is to be in the Patriots system. The Patriots system is a casual, old-style school type of pocket passer. Bill Belichick really doesn't like quarterbacks to scramble, and honestly, neither do I. If you have the ability to, that's great, but do not rely on it, and it seemed like Danny Etling was relying on that way too much, and all in all, by the end of the game, if your rushing stats are better than your passing, then you're not going to be the future of New England. Now, I'm not totally going to knock on the guy. I do understand this was his first time playing a full game. He did get, again, time in the couple of other preseason games, but definitely not nearly as much as Brian Hoyer. But still, my point is for him to be going up against second, third, fourth string players on the New York Giants defense and to put up those types of numbers, very worrisome. Then you get to roster cutdowns, and Danny Etling does not make the team. There's no surprise there. He clears waivers. No team wanted to pick him up. But he gets reverted back to the Patriots practice squad, which made a lot of sense. Bill Belichick really does like to keep his draft capital, his draft players, as long as he can, whether that's in the active roster or on the practice squad. He just likes to do that. So for me, it made sense, especially because there was some stuff that they did like in him and try to develop him a little as best as they could. And putting on the practice squad, all in all, to me, made sense. Then you get to this past draft, the 2019 NFL draft, and the Patriots select Jarret Stidham, who they selected in the 4th round. We are not talking 6th, 7th round. We're not even talking about 5th. We are saying in the 4th round. And when you are selected in the 4th round, it's because obviously the coach and the guys really just drafting you see potential in you and actually you becoming a starter or being something for the team in the long run. And right when they drafted Jarret Stidham, it did not look good for Danny Etling by any means. Currently, the Patriots have 4 quarterbacks. 4 quarterbacks. The most they will ever keep on the actual active roster is going to be 3. It's going to be Tom Brady and then whatever guys. They barely like to keep 3 quarterbacks. You saw that with Jacoby Brissett when they had Tom Brady, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jacoby Brissett. I mean, they trade Jacoby Brissett and then they end up having to trade Jimmy Garoppolo too. But they aren't a team. Bill Belichick is not very fond of having to keep 3 quarterbacks. He will do it. I mean, we've seen him do it before, but he really likes to keep 2. And when you now have Tom Brady, Brian Hoyer, Jarret Stidham, and Danny Etling, obviously, not all those guys are going to make it. Now, personally, I feel that the Patriots are going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the actual roster this year in Tom Brady, Brian Hoyer, and Jarret Stidham. No way Danny Etling makes the roster. I bet all my money on that Danny Etling will not make the roster. I can see him being put back on the practice squad, but he will not make the actual roster. As for Jarret Stidham, we will just have to see how he plays. Again, this video is not even about Jarret Stidham, so I'm not going to get into all my thoughts on him, but it seems way more that Jarret Stidham will have a better chance at becoming the air quote future than someone like Danny Etling will. Personally, I don't see Danny Etling making a huge jump in 1 year, and at the same time, I don't see the Patriots wasting a roster spot, whether that's on the 90-man roster for the offseason or a spot on the practice squad for multiple years back to back to back. Now, of course, I could be wrong, and Danny Etling could come out of nowhere and spark flashes of an elite starting quarterback, but at the same time, if we're being realistic, that's not going to happen. How long does Danny Etling's tenure with the Patriots continue? Ultimately, I don't know, but Danny Etling He's not the future of the Patriots. So what are your guys' thoughts on him? Let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure you guys like and subscribe. It helps me, the channel, and even you guys out very, very, very much. Make sure you guys share this video with everybody else who can go to the Patriots Global family. And other than that, I will catch you guys in another video.
In Astro World.